finally, there's autonomous. Auto means self. Nomos, law. I create my own laws. I create my own morals. That's the environment that we're living in today. I believe that autonomous culture is fully aware of who God is, his authority and his power, because of how they conduct themselves. You see, autonomous culture tries to minimize God to feel less guilt. They try to diminish his control so that they feel less convicted. And they try to silence his voice so they don't have to listen and obey. If they were purely autonomous, they would just live a riotous life with reckless abandon and no conscience at all, if they were purely autonomous. But they are showing by their actions that they know who God is, how they try to dismantle his authority. We used to print, "In God we trust," on our money. We used to pledge one nation under God. We used to pray over our school loudspeaker during the morning announcements. We used to pray for God's protection over our children at Friday night football games. But autonomous culture wants to minimize God's authority, diminish his control, and silence his voice. See, when you attempt to minimize God's authority and silence his voice, you are acknowledging the existence of God, that he sits high and he looks low. Marriage is sacred, but autonomous culture wants to dismantle the sanctity of marriage by turning it into a social experiment. The bachelor, the bachelorette. One guy's going to date and sleep with up to 29, 30 women to pick one. They are dismantling the sanctity of marriage. When we enjoy watching shows like that, we become autonomous like them, rather than make them more theonomous like us. Sex is no longer sacred, intimate, or private. It's pop news. Next up on pop news, who's zooming who? Riding down the freeway of love in a pink Cadillac. At least we used to talk in code. Now, they say it out loud and they show it all in videos. The TV show, Naked and Afraid. They ought to be naked and ashamed, but they're taking off their clothes in attempts to remove the moral code of civility. I dated a woman who is a very godly lady, but she had a dress that had very low cleavage. And she realized that, so what she attempted to do to fix it was she put on a rhinestone brooch. And that brooch spelled the words Jesus on it. And so she was a lovely girl. That was the toughest night of my life. Every time I looked up from my plate, I called on the name of Jesus. I eat my mashed potatoes and look up, Jesus. I never called on the name of Jesus that much in my life. Jesus. But at least the girl, she had the awareness of some code, some moral code of civility, that she would try to fix it to be appropriate. But I never called on Jesus like that before or since. You see, the dress code in our church is changing. You can see it. It's innocent, but you can see that autonomous culture has infiltrated and influenced the church.